Hello, we're going to do a video about importing and replacing a character to be the third person character in Unreal 4. So this is what we're going to change, and our new character is going to use all the same animations as are built in the standard third person template. So I've made a new project, no starter content, just the third person template. And I'm just going to add in my new character. I've made a folder called Mixie, which I'm going to bung my character in, and just drag it in. And these import settings are worth just spending a bit of time with. It recognises it's a skeletal mesh, that's a good thing, and we want the mesh as well. If we had materials on, we'd certainly want those to come through. And we don't want to import animations. However, that does show you that's a potential for later on. So I'm going to import, just check up under miscellaneous. No, there's no naughties there. Now, here's a couple of key things. Update skeleton reference and use time 0 or frame 0 as the ref pose. We'll have that. Okay, and import. And when it does, it separates out the skeleton, and then probably on the basis of the skeleton creates this physics asset. But we just want to shift click and, well, we just do save all anyway. There we go. So now that one's in, we need to actually revert back to the mannequin and have a look at the character for the mannequin and check out some things about the skeleton of the mannequin. Now, in order to retarget the animation so that it works with our skeleton, we need to make sure that the animations that are there already, which are using this skeleton, are able to understand what all the bones are in our new skeleton. So we need to rig these in a retarget operation. So this is different from rigging in your modeling software, whereby you would use the skin modifier in 3ds Max or rig in Maya and make sure that your mesh was tied to all the bones of the skeleton. This is a different thing. This is really the name relationship, making sure that the kind of common idea of humanoid is one that this skeleton and the other skeleton can both understand. So if I go to this retarget manager, look at the process, here we can see the bones of the skeleton. The retarget manager has a list of bones. There's the skeleton we're currently looking at, and a relationship where they should be in relationship to one another. So if we go to Setup Rig and choose Humanoid, there is only one rig built into the third person template, and one could develop one's own. Okay, so this is what is programmed into Unreal to understand for a human, and it's got these built-in objects here, and then this is the skeleton for the mannequin, and it relates exactly to the humanoid, unsurprisingly, because they're both Epic Games sort of productions. You can see more advanced stuff, so multiple joints for fingers and multiple joints for toes, but we're not going to go that far that fast. Okay, and now we've done this retarget and linked it all to the humanoid rig, we can see we need to save. So I'll do that, and minimize this down for the moment. Okay, so we've got the UE4 mannequin rigged to the humanoid, and what we want to do now is find our new one and do the same process, but it's going to be more long-winded. The reason being, the imported one doesn't have the same names for anything. Okay, so if I go Retarget Manager on this one, you can see a lot fewer bones in the first instance. So now it's a Prod 3D Basic Mixer Mode skeleton that I've come up with, and just going to make sure we save and then move on. So we can see it starts off root, and if we look over here at our skeleton, we'll see there is no root, or sometimes also called a reference or even platform. So we're going straight into the figure itself, and the first thing is pelvis. Well, we don't have pelvis, we have hips. Then spine 01, well, ours starts at spine. There's capital letters as well, so naming convention is quite different. It's not a great deal of intelligence invested in the automatic retargeting. It literally has to be exactly the same for it to be recognized. So clavicle, L, that's left shoulder. And the arm convention, naming convention is slightly different as well. So repeat the process for the right shoulder, right arm, scroll down a bit. So the next thing is neck 01, which is just neck. Head made it, exactly the same. Okay, so that'll do. These are the base elements. These are absolutely needed to be able to run what the built-in animations do. We've actually got a few extra bones. We've got right toe base and right toe end, and the same for the left, of course. But there's and also an extra one for the head as well. But there's nothing to tie those to in the basic. But that's fine. It should work fine without. Okay, so that's all good. Save that. Finish the retarget manager for now. If we were to do the retargeting of the animations now, we'd have a problem in that the original character, the mannequin skeleton, is in the A pose, and so it wouldn't let us do that. So we'll need to convert the original mannequin skeleton pose so that it's float that there, so that it's in the T pose like our new one is. So I need to select upper arm left. I wonder if one can do this at the same time. No, one can't. So I'm going to undo that. The other thing I need to do is, of course, make sure that I've got 5-degree increments on the angle, because experience tells me that this needs to go up 45 degrees, and upper arm, there must be an upper arm, there it is, upper arm right also needs to go 45 degrees, and that's good. I've kept the Retarget Manager open so I can do Save Pose. Of course it pings back to its original. We can do View Pose and it shows it's still there. Save that. And the mesh. Okay, so that's all good, that's all saved. Let's shut that down. And now we need to go and find out what it is that needs to get converted. So handily they're all stored in animations for the mannequin. And you can see from looking, we've got 3 different colours of asset defining 3 different types. So from here to here, they're all individual animations. So you can produce these in your software, 3D software, and export them 1 animation per time, all with the same character, of course, and they'd be imported as separate things. So you need to either make separate files or just keep deleting the same animation, assuming you don't want a copy of it for some reason. So you end up duplicating the character several times, enough times to make the individual little animations. Okay, but we're using these ones here. Then there's the controlling it all is the animation blueprint. And the animation blueprint sets up particular states and relationships and changes and transitions between those states. And there are 2 major states. One is idle run, and the other is jump. So there are animations that fit into those 2 different aspects. And then there's this blend space, which handles the change from static and idling, so standing still, breathing a bit, and up to walking and then running. So the difference there is speed. So the blend space essentially uses the value of speed to change between idle, walk and run. And then another thing is the differences between the 3 different parts of the jump animation. But we only need to go in and retarget this one, and it should drag in all the others as new elements. So we go 3rd person anim blueprint, right click, retarget anim blueprints, duplicate anim blueprints and retarget, click, and here's our original mannequin, and we want to see our one there, and there it is waiting. Okay, and when we're happy with that, we'll do retarget, and see what we get. Now, it says it's duplicated, and it's put it in the content folder, and I suppose it's alright there for the minute. They do need saving though. So we'll do save. Okay, so we can see that our characters come through very nicely, and if we were to look at one of these, let's try that one. Okay, although not a particularly well constructed character, we can see the motion is working fine, and here we can see all the component parts and the different descriptors, the animation itself, and you can do a few little bits of treatment of the animation, but not a whole lot. So try and do it all in your modelling or animation software. Have a look at the idle. There's the idle animation. Okay, so that's all good. So we can see that this animation has to run through this mesh and skeleton setup. Okay, and one thing that seems to work very well is enable root motion. So we'll check that. Okay, and do so now I'm going to uncheck that and leave it for the moment. Let's do some other shenanigans before we get round to that. Okay, so we've got these new versions of the key script, and I'm going to edit the name on this one because for some reason it doesn't put it in that it's a copy, so or retarget even. So I'm just going to change its name to TP Mixie, and of course then it moves. Now we can have a quick look at this anim, and you can see it's got some programming built in. This is of course the same programming that the one for the mannequin character uses. We can also have a look at the Animgraph, and there must be another way of doing this. Nope. So I'm just going to double click Animgraph, and it looks really simple, and this bit is totally simple. This is where the complexity lies, if there is any. So we double click that, and then we can see jump loop, jump end. These are transition rules that stops it from going either way from one to the other, or allows it to go either way from one to the other under certain circumstances. These have the single animations stored in them. This is the blend space that handles the changes from idle to walk to run. Okay, so if we go and see what the blend space reference is, it's using the value of speed, feeding that into the idle run 2D blend space player thing, which is the other type of asset. Okay, but have a look at that, double click that one to check what it does. Okay, I'm going to leave these settings as they are for the minute. Remember I looked at root motion before. I was getting a little bit ahead of myself. What I want to do, I'll just save that because I took the setting off anyway, so it won't make any difference. What I want to do now is visit the animation blueprint for the character. So I'm in third person BP, blueprints, and this is the one that drives the current mannequin as the first player, or the you when you're playtesting it. So I'm going to duplicate this and call this one TP chart Mixie. It's always good to have an original back, so if you mess around with too many settings you can always go back and get it back to how it used to be. Now the whole trail of adjustments needed to get our character in instead of this one starts really with this, the Gamemode. Now rather than make a copy of this, this just holds one setting that we need to change, and that's the default pawn class, third person character. We're going to use our TP char Mixie. Okay, and then compile and save. So the Gamemode is targeting this script now. So let's have a look at this one. So there's all the standard programming to handle the input from the various input devices, and what we want to do is first of all change this setting here. It says auto possess player disabled. Well, actually we want it to auto possess player 0, which is the one person playing. Okay, and we can quick compile that. But another thing, of course, we need to change is the mesh. We look at the mesh, it's still that one, and we want it to be our new Mixamo character. So there we go. It's fairly simply done. And animation mode. It says use animation blueprint, which we want to do, but we want to use that one. And instantly our character comes in the idle, so that's starting to look sort of ready to go. Okay, so throw that one on. Okay, it's ready idling, I think. But what we need to do is make sure that the existing one is disabled. So I've selected third person character, and it could still use an animation blueprint. Maybe if another player was allowed to join. Let's just make sure that the player 0 grab is disabled. So this is the actor rather than the element that's the original blueprint that's in the content browser. Where's it gone? There we go. Auto possess player, player 0, disabled. Okay, so now let's give it a test play, see what happens. Oh, well, there we go. Excellent. So no need to mess around with the root motion in this case, but that's your sort of your first port of call. Okay, that'll do for now, and it shows you how quick and easy you can work if you use Mixamo to do your character rigging, and also to borrow some animation if you wanted to change what the player does, how the player does it. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you very much.